Magic's coolest keyword is only printed on 2 cards. That's right, throughout all the infects and all the cascades, there's bound to be a couple of bandings in the mix. But this, my friends, is not one of those cases, as much as Wizards wants to convince us it is. This keyword was printed on 1 card, tossed to the side, forgotten, printed on another single card, rinse and repeat. And according to the community polls, you guys are very interested in hearing about this. And looking at your guys' comments, it's kind of shocking how quickly you guys didn't get it right. That's right, this isn't the Gravestorm video. I know you were so convinced it was the Gravestorm video. Gravestorm video's coming. Don't worry, it's coming. Sorry, gonna have to find another Gravestorm video. This is the Fortify video. I think it's cooler. I know, shock from a Teneb player. Let's jump into what this mechanic is, when it got started, the history of it, and a couple of mock-ups that I've made that may be good ways to introduce this old keyword that R&D may find a little difficult to work with into a modern era of Magic. So, that interests you, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for clicking, and let's get into it. Fortify is a keyword that was first introduced on the artifact subtype Fortification on the card Darksteel Garrison. It was introduced in the set Future Sight and acted like an equipment for lands. In the case of Darksteel Garrison, it costs 2 colorless, you can attach it to a land for 2 colorless, it gives the land indestructible, and whenever the land becomes tapped, give a creature +1/+1 until end of turn. Now, the fact this keyword made its appearance on Future Sight is no coincidence. Future Sight was a set designed for the creative team over at Wizards of the Coast to make some predictions on where they thought the future of Magic would be in 10, 20, 30 years. This included new keywords, new borders, new subtypes that weren't found on any other cards. It was an awesome set, but as I said, there are 2 cards with this mechanic on it. The next one was printed 17 years later in the Fallout Universes Beyond product in the form of the card Camp. Camp is a 3 colorless fortification that attaches to a land for 3 colorless. Whenever a fortified land is tapped for mana, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. If that creature shares a color with the mana produced, create a junk token. This is really interesting because they only did this mechanic twice. And they said, 17 years later, I think we could try it again. What if instead, hear me out, what if instead of it giving 1/1 until end of turn, it gave 1/1 permanently? But this is where things get a little weird. Mark Rosewater himself said that he liked this mechanic, it was just difficult to work with. The reason being, R&D's stance on land destruction is to not run it, which makes putting a powerful effect on a fortification difficult. Yeah, but you don't remove the land to get rid of the fortification, they just equip the fortification to another land. So that reasoning makes no sense to me. You just destroy the fortification, which is an artifact, which is really easy to destroy. Just thought I'd give my 2 cents there. But the fact that it was reprinted in Fallout shows that they might be attempting to reintroduce that design space to the game. But again, they did pretty much the same thing for almost the same mana cost. And they're like, I don't know, it's just kind of boring to work with. Mark Rosewater was also quoted over on his Blogatog site as saying it was an 8 on the Storm scale, which means it's probably not going to make a return. His reasoning being this time, there aren't many things you want to attach to lands. We have explored it, it's just a very limited design space. Yeah, I agree. If you want to put 1/1 on a creature, I think fortifications are pretty limited. If that's the only thing you put on the card, yes. I get it. I don't design games, I just play. But I've got to say, B to the S, Mr. Rosewater. I came up with a few fortifications of my own that honestly are super inspired design spaces that could provide very cool cards for some people that might not be able to have access or afford other ones. So let's take a look at them. Where I think they really missed the mark with the first fortification and, you know, also the second one is they did not tap into nostalgia at all. And modern Wizards of the Coast knows very well nostalgia is a great way to sell stuff. It's also a great way to get people to buy the cards and play the game. What I mean by design space that's nostalgic is pretty much just referential. It's similar to how the Magus of the Blank cycle of creatures would allow people to use powerful effects of old cards like Wheel of Fate or Balance when those cards were normally too expensive or banned to play in some of their formats. I think fortifications are a great way to do this same thing with lands. Let me introduce you to Discombobulating Pathway. Discombobulating Pathway is 1 for an artifact fortification. It fortifies for 1. Fortified land has tap, untap target attacking creature, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to and dealt by that creature this turn. That might sound familiar. That's because it's on Maze of Ith, which is just an old, cool, classic card that a lot of people want to play with. And it's like, hey, maybe I can't afford the $6 for a Maze of Ith. Trust me, this can get much more extreme. You'll see in some future examples. But it's a great way to reprint some cards that maybe they would never reprint. They would realistically never reprint a Maze of Ith in a modern set. They could definitely reprint a Discombobulating Pathway, though. Where I think they went really wrong with fortifications as well is the mana cost you had to put into these 2 fortifications they created is a lot. It's 5 and 6 mana total to get those effects, and the effects aren't good. They could be way cheaper. Again, they're artifacts, extremely easy to get rid of. In the case of Discombobulated Pathway, you're choosing whether to use the land for land or use the land for the remove something from combat effect. And I'm gonna sound like a broken record. Again, they're artifacts. I think they can be cheap with how much removal there is. Another design approach I really like to this is making the land produce mana, and then the mana it produces giving a special effect to the spell you cast with that land. So for example, Mage Mark Pillars is 2 colorless for an artifact fortification. You may attach fortifications at instant speed. Fortified lands have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Copy the next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn. You may choose new targets for the copy. So for 4 mana investment, you turn one of your lands into a copy instants and sorceries when you use it land, which might read overpowered. Again, it's an artifact. Very predictable. They have to pretty much wait a rotation to actually get a use out of this thing, which is a ton of time for people to remove it. And again, I'm not a professional designer. This is just to maybe spark some ideas. I think there's a cool space for designing powerful effects on slightly slower cards, similar to Magus of the Blank cycle, that could really be utilized with fortifications, I believe. So the next custom fortification I made kind of combines these first 2 concepts of referencing a powerful land from the past and providing a powerful effect with the mana it produces. We've got Columns of Legends. Columns of Legends is 1 for an artifact fortification that fortifies for 3. Fortified land has tap, add 2 mana of any 1 color that's in your commander's color identity. The next legendary spell you cast this turn has Cascade. So this one's obviously giving you the bonus of producing mana that's in your commander's color identity and giving it Cascade. And it's clearly referencing Command Tower, which is a land that will produce mana of your commander's color identity. I think another fantastic route and way of designing these fortifications would be to take previously so expensive cards like Core Haven that no one would be able to afford them, or banned lands, and produce effects on these fortifications that are the same as those banned lands, but slower, so they're fair, and people can play with those powerful effects without spending their entire paycheck or, you know, getting kicked out of the tournament. Seacoast Arches is my take on this. It's 2 colorless for an artifact fortification. Whenever it becomes attached to a land, tap that land. Fortified land has tap, add 1 blue for each artifact you control, and it fortifies for 3. Now, this fortification is clearly a callback to Tolarian Academy, which is an extraordinarily overpowered land that's banned, so no one gets to play with it. But now, some people might get to use that effect on a land. It having the lands that it attaches to become tapped is also a way to just guarantee it slows it for 1 rotation unless they're running synergy to untap it, which at that point, that's Tolarian Academy with way more hoops. It's exactly what we're going for. And just thinking about some of the banned cards and some of the powerful lands like throughout history, there's a ton more ideas that have popped into my head. Actually, one popped into my head over the course of this video. I'm gonna do a quick mock-up and see what you guys think. Okay, your boy might be cooking. Let me introduce you to the Gold Rampart. The Gold Rampart is 1 for an artifact fortification that fortifies for 2. Fortified land has tap, sacrifice this land, search your library for a plains, island, swamp, mountain, or forest card, and put it onto the battlefield tapped. It turns a land into a sack land. That's pretty freaking cool. I honestly think this is fair as well. You're putting a 2 mana investment to just like filter through your deck each turn. It's an artifact. Get rid of it. And again, say it with me, he's not a designer, folks. He's not a designer, maybe it's too OP. It's just so cool. It blows me away that Mark Rosewater said this is like an uninspired design space that's like difficult. There's not really anything you want to put on a land. This video could go on and on and on as I create more and more cards that are references to lands from the past, because I will. This is just a plea. Wizards, I saw the card being reprinted in Fallout and I got excited. Try it again. If you want to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, that always helps me out a ton. We're trying to hit 10K by the end of the year. I still think that's very, very doable, especially with the content that I've got, some ideas, some high quality. I hope you guys notice. If you want to show a little bit of additional support like the people over my blurred mug, you can head over to the Patreon at patreon.com/NixLotus. The link is down in the description and in the comments. And with that, I hope you guys have a happy holiday season, Merry Christmas, all that good stuff. I'll see you guys next time.